My name is Innocent Mugenga, and this is Learnability, an open-ended exploration of our ability and desire to learn, grow, and adapt. Let's go. In collaboration with Gather, an innovation conference within the intersection of tech, science, business, public sector, and culture, we will be creating the Gather series. In that, we will explore digital democracy, virtual love, urban planning, future of work, information age, and so much more. Join us.
My name is Linus Grandborg. Grandborg på svenska. And I've been working in tech since 2005 after my studies. And done a lot of different roles, different type of companies. And for the last 2.5 years, I've been one of the founders of Levels. And Levels is a new type of company, I think. We're pretty unique in the Stockholm ecosystem. We are helping companies with venture capital, and we also help them with tech by consulting or building products. And our latest initiative is a company called STACC.
I want to talk more about STACC. I think STACC is very related to the topic we're here to speak about today. And we actually have the pleasure of working together in helping companies and building the ecosystem. So tell us a little bit about the idea behind STACC.
I think I've been thinking about, like, I had the idea since 2008. And it's been like growing since then. And the last year it's kind of bloomed, and we started the company, and I find the right people to work with me, and also right time for me also in my career. STACC is how do you say it for a manager in a company? It's a new type of recruitment channel. It's a long-time partner that will build your development organization stronger over time, and hopefully also keep the talents longer at your office.
Talent retention, that's an important part of the recruiting process.
And for me, it's like today there are several big companies that are kind of vacuum cleaning the marketing of young talents.
STACC sort of sits in the middle. So you have the company here, STACC, and the talent on this side. And how do you work with the talent?
STACC stands for Stockholm Tech Accelerator. So we are focused on Stockholm, we're focusing on tech, and we want to accelerate the talent's development or learning and within their company. And a lot of companies build trainee programs to attract talents, but then there's usually maybe a lot of fake trainee programs, I think, is out there. They say they're going to do a lot and promise a lot, but then when the student or talent is in, it's kind of similar, just a ordinary employment.
And I get how it can become like that as the company is focused on what the company does and not dedicated in talent training.
So that's why we started STACC, and we kind of, my thought was like, okay, and I tried to build big trainee programs at a larger company, but usually you don't have the muscle or the power to do that. But so I thought, well, okay, what if we bring the trainee program outside build a trainee program outside the company, and then connect several companies to this trainee program. So the trainee program consists of the community part, the training part, and the social part. And these are the 3 key factors to attract young talent. Because I spent hours or many interviews with young talents, and they want fun. They want also fun, a network, and that's often hard when you're sitting as a manager as a big company. You need to recruit 20 people. You have to retain the 60 persons you're a manager of, and also you have all the politics within the company, and also and sometimes you don't get the support you needed to handle that. So building this culture the young talents wants, and the training usually end up like in the end like of your priority. And usually you don't have also the long time focusing on building talents, because you're maybe 1 or 2 years in a position, then you move on, and then you move on. And maybe that's kind of some managers' focus to do. You're doing a career on a big company. So with a STACC, we will have a long-term trainee program built for the talents, and hopefully like a long-lasting community that will follow you throughout your career.
Okay, my name is Binette. I'm born and raised in Stockholm. I work currently as a client relationship manager at the Royal Swedish Academy of Engineering Sciences. And the shortening is IVA, EVA. Yeah. So I live in Sweden, I've worked in Sweden, and finally I'm doing something that I really, really enjoy.
Fantastic. I love hearing that. I really love hearing that. And what is it you enjoy? What is your mission? What is it you do?
My mission basically is to help individuals to understand the power of their personal competence, basically. So there's 4 levels to it that I usually talk about. So it's individuals, and then after that is building a relationship and learning basically how to create a relationship, because it's sometimes necessary to create, right? And then once that is created, then the question becomes, okay, how do we maintain this? And how does it become a long-term based relationship, right? So that's the second level. The third one is organization. How can I, as an individual, with my competence, with my personal strength, contribute to an organization, just moving past the relationship phase? And the fourth one is, how can I, again, as an individual, contribute to the society? So what I've been doing for years, as like personally for me, Binette, has been working with relationship building within organizations, but I never really felt that what I was doing had a direct impact on the society. So now that I see the connection there, I'm just trying to help other people to reach it as well.
Wow, I love that. I love how you found the synergy between what you personally want to do and what you're able to do working with. And also, speaking about synergy, we often speak about us all having an individual pursuit, and you're talking about combining that with organizations. Where would you say the responsibility lies? Is it the individual to try to affect the organization, or is it the organization to be aware of the individual's pursuit and try to not adapt to it, but bring it into the work?
I mean, a physical coin, not a Bitcoin, but a physical coin has 2 sides of it. So if you would find a coin while you're walking on the floor, with just one side of it, you wouldn't be able to buy anything with it. So I definitely think that there's a shared responsibility. The question of accountability, though, is always on an individual basis. You are accountable to make an impact, to show up and dare to be seen, tell people that, hey, here I am, this is what I am passionate about. And beyond passion is really, this is my personal strength. This is the growth mechanism that really can contribute to your organization. So that is an accountability question. Responsible? Both.
So my name is Alok Ahlström. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of AppJobs.com. AppJobs.com is a marketplace and a platform where gig workers around the world can find, compare, rate, and review all the different gig working opportunities that are out there. So things like working with Uber or driving Lyft, charge e-scooters, things like that. And we're we've been growing pretty fast. We started 2.5 years ago. We're growing with about 10,000 new gig working members each week.
Wow.
And we're somewhere north of 600,000 members at the moment, primarily in the US, but also in Europe and parts of Asia.
Well, this is a really big market. We'll take it a few steps back.
Sure.
So we're talking in this episode about the future of work. So the job market is changing, and in that we're finding a new, could you call it a new vertical, a new area, a new field called the gig economy. So we will start off with you sort of giving us a description of what is the gig economy.
That's a very good question, and it's not super easy to answer. Reason being that the question is not very well defined. Not to say that you didn't define it well, but in the discourse in the public, and I think the reason is that it's a phenomenon that has been sort of creeping up on us. If you remember, about 10 years ago, there was these companies, Uber and Airbnb, when they launched. They were labeled the sharing economy.
Yes.
And then after a while, it was called the collaborative economy. And the platform economy, and the circular economy. So there was a couple of different descriptions. I think in some European Union official documents, it's still called the collaborative economy. And nowadays we call it the gig economy. And I think we should take a step back and look at the fundamentals that are changing. And the fundamentals that are changing is that we're living in a world now where we all have smartphones, where we use these phones to not only communicate, but consume and act out every part of life. Everything from listening to music, but also to dating and almost consuming relationships. And I think where the world is going is we're going to a place where we're going to consume work in much the same way that we consume music, Netflix, Spotify, Tinder. Oh, I'm not taking this parallel to Tinder and dating to be distasteful. No. It's on purpose, you know. Historically, a relationship is something that lasts for 20, 30 years. Much the same as a job did.
Yes.
And now
that's a good parallel.
Right? Now we're coming to a world where people change jobs every 2-3 years, and maybe even relationships every 2-3 years. But if you look at the latest dating apps, at least some of the friends who I know who are on these dating apps, they could do date 4 girls in parallel, or 4 in a month.
Wow.
And I think the reason for that is because the technology is reducing the transaction cost of moving between these relationships, right? Very much the same thing is happening in the labor market. When the transaction costs of switching between jobs decrease, then you will see people work with driving both Uber and Lyft and Viavan. Maybe drive those in the morning, and then in the afternoon do some deliveries for Volt or Foodora or something like that, and in the evening rent out a spare room on Airbnb. And if they don't like their boss algorithm, they don't have to quit. They just click sign out, and then they quit.
They're off.
So I think that type of behavior that we bring from the consumer world of things, that's going to shape how the labor market is going to be as well. And currently that's called the gig economy. I think we will just eventually end up calling it work.
You've also been previously, before AppJobs, you were the Sweden boss of Uber. And so for Uber, this change has been super beneficial, obviously. How is it for the rest of the job market?
Well, I think that it would be provoking for me to say only positive things about it, because any major change in the world comes with its share of challenges and pains. And there are real pains connected to this phenomenon and the growth of it, not only for individuals in the labor market in terms of job security and insurance aspects and taxes and so on, but also for society at large. You know, how do we make sure that public functions work when the tax base erodes, or if the tax base erodes, things like that. So there are challenges. Now, we are 10 years into this phenomenon. As I mentioned, Airbnb and Uber came to life about 10 years ago.
They're the one that kicked it off.
They're the ones that kicked it off.
Yeah.
If you think about 10 years into the Industrial Revolution, people were dying from lung diseases, and there were a lot of bad things happening. Now, the Industrial Revolution was very good for mankind, I would argue.
Yeah.
But it took some time to get all the pieces right.
See the downsides and change that.
And figure out what to do with those, how to address those downsides. And much similar to when the Industrial Revolution happened, I think that the knee-jerk reaction from politicians and decision makers is to apply the same tools to respond to these challenges that they've done to respond to other challenges.
Oh, yeah.
Now, many of those tools might not work because the dynamics are different. So it will take some time for all parts of the ecosystem to figure out the right ways to tackle these. I hope that we will be part of that with AppJobs. That's what our aim is. I also think that many of the individual players in the market, gig companies, if you say, are also maturing and doing their share, and then part of it will come as a response from legislators and policymakers.
You have a very interesting position, or you could take a very interesting position as AppJobs, because you're a platform for several platforms that then employ or don't employ workers.
Yep.
So you could possibly, I'm seeing it as being in between them and the government and lobbying for what's needed.
That's. I
mean, is that me putting too much pressure on you, or is that
no? I mean, our mission is to be the gig worker's best friend.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we want to be, and the way that we become that is by becoming a scalable and automated digital companion, tailored to you. Now, that's one way that we could bring value into the ecosystem. Obviously, another way to bring value into the ecosystem is to aggregate all the insights and data that comes through our platform. And one way that we've done that is we've started an initiative called the AppJobs Institute for the Future of Work. That it's you can find it on institute.appjobs.com, where we aggregate all the data that flows through our platform to look into things like the labor conditions, even things like demographics. So what's the gender split, and how does that differ between different verticals or industries within the gig economy, between different countries?
Some of my colleagues, they are just thirsty for knowledge, so they will always learn the new stuff. But a lot of people at organizations, there's like a culture issue with learning. I think you're sitting in a team, you're learning more about Java within the team or leadership, but no one is pushing you to the next level.
Oh yeah,
you're Googling stuff, but then to take the next step, it's I think organization needs help there, and it's not like, oh, we send everybody on a two days training and then the budget is over. But I think you have to, over a longer time, nurture, and also challenge your employees to become and learn new stuff, and also have a culture where the employees challenge their manager to, because in school it's like structured, but then on many workplaces it's kind of up to the manager or the employer or employee to take control of your own education and learning. And with a STACC is kind of one of the pain points, like when you're a manager, if you're having STACC with your side, it's a partner for your training of your employees also. So that kind of the headache when you're a manager is recruiting.
And
and if there are tools or like partners that can help you build your employees, it's great.
Definitely
to get that help.
More resources to do the job.
Yeah.
And you were talking about, I guess the main reason this is needed right now is how changing the market is. So the actual job market is changing, the different fields that we work within, technology is changing. So it's so changeable and adapting, while, like you said, the conventional education is not moving in the same pace. So with that, there's a huge gap in what's actually needed and what skills are taught and what competence people come out with.
Yeah. And I think that also leave like, I think sometimes it's good that the conventional education is not this is a school, this is educational, but then I think because it's a long time, like you're gonna learn your whole life. But there are like actors in Stockholm that has, you know, capitalized on this the last 10 years, filling this gap. That, oh, what's the coolest trends now, you know? I think Hyper is a good example to you know, they fill a gap that the original or the university didn't have, but they are getting there.
Hyper Island is a very good example of being really market adapted education.
And for STACC, we are like more like, instead of, you know, your learning should not just be 1 to 3 days a year. It should be a constantly every month something new, but a small block of education that will help you with your like daily work. It's more hands-on education. You will get there together with other in the community.
I believe that's personally, and it's quite obviously, doing learnability. I believe a lot in that continuous education, continuous learning, and STACC really is more of a practical learning. So you get the social part, you get some educational material, but the most of the learning is actually happening while you're working on actual projects. And I think that gives you really the opportunity to grow and adapt with the market.
And I think, like, if you're a Java developer, most of the Java you will learn, you will learn it at work.
Exactly.
Because you will sit with it like 8 hours a day, or the training we were focusing more like this: how you become a better team player, how can you be making better decisions, how can you you know, give you our goal is for the 3 first years you will get the experience of 6 years. So I've been in contact with trainers that has been thinking about this for 15 years. How could we take like young talents and give them all our knowledge early on? And now when I present a STACC for them, they jumped on board, and you know, they are so happy to create this. Like, I think it's going to be a kind of ecosystem of different type of blocks of education, where you also involve the people in the community to say, okay, what's burning right now, or what's most interesting we're going to talk about next session. And then, you know, we have kind of a voting, and you know, okay, so next time you want to talk about workshop facilitation, all right, that's done. We see you in 2 weeks, and we have a evening with one of the best trainers in Stockholm about that. So
I love that. It's very practical. And it's also, I think you have to have an interest in what you're learning. And with that, you're invested and you have an interest in learning. So we're talking about the market, the job market, and jobs being ever changing. How can is there a way of being future-proof?
I love this question so much. I've actually been contemplating about it. You know, future-proof actually means that you are a proof today. So let me just take it back to a few steps. If you, as an individual, seem to have a competence, or you are willing to explore your competence, so sometimes, you know, that path can be really difficult. just take it anyway. And sometimes the path can be easy. It seems easy. Take it on, because it's just a path towards your end goal. It's just the means to an end, basically. And future-proof means that you have taken charge of your life. You want to do something in the future, but in order to reach that point, you're doing something today. So, because sometimes when you use words like future-proof, it becomes a bit complicated, because I tend to think, oh, it's over there, it's in the future. I don't have to do anything about that now.
And especially if you don't know how the future is going to look. It's happening so fast.
Right. And I mean, if it's connected to a certain competence or a certain area or a certain knowledge, then of course we know that technology is really fast-paced. It's rapid, and it has been for decades now. But what lies behind every type of technology is human beings. So even when it comes to the most complex AI or robotics type of mindset or type of product and service, it's still people behind it, designing it, thinking it through, creating it, doing it.
And also searching for the human intelligence to liken that, and even the robotics, human motion. So it's always comes back to the human.
It comes back to the human being. And what I really want people to get is bring your whole self into it. Like if you have a personality that is more prone to high EQ, like emotional intelligence, rather than IQ, then bring that into technology, bring that into your competence. Because when you feel at your fullest potential, that makes the path a bit easier. And it creates a lot of magical, situations as well, because you feel like I'm just being me, and I'm learning. So people feel like, oh, I can definitely work with this person.
I like that. It reminds me of the saying, like, experience is not how long time you've done something, it's what you've done with that time.
Oh yeah. Because we don't own time. Time, there are words, that we use frequently, but we don't own it. We're doing something within it. And itself is quite temporary. I'm going deep now.
This is philosophical.
But that's not what we're supposed to be talking about. But just in terms of time, don't let that become the hindrance of you doing something. Rather, it should become a wake-up call. Like, okay, if I don't own it, and if it's limited, then what can I do today? And the same goes for organizations. I mean, if I don't own the time, I don't even own the people that are supposed to apply in the future, then I need to do something yesterday.
So we'll talk a little bit macro maybe about the gig economy. In its word itself, it sounds large. If we talk about the gig worker, what are the changes that has happened for the individual in this?
So some things are actually quite exciting and good for the individual. So as I said, the underlying theme to this change is the reduction of transaction cost, which sounds kind of nerdy in its word, but if you think of the implications that it have for the individual, they're quite profound actually. So what it means is that you could sit in your couch and in the morning, and you could be thinking about what you want to do in the afternoon, and maybe you want to Netflix a little bit, or listen to Spotify or Tinder, or maybe you want to consume some other app where you go out and make some money. And what would you like to do? Well, you could go into AppJobs and you can check, maybe you like dogs or you like cooking, and then maybe you change your mind actually when the afternoon approaches, and well, you're not bound to doing that. I mean, it's flexible.
I love that flexibility, right?
So there's flexibility in it. There's economic opportunity in it. Yeah. There's also a lot of community in it. I mean, a lot of the future labor market that we're heading towards is very social, in the sense that many of the boring jobs are being replaced by machines. So the social ones are the ones that where us humans can add value.
And when the transaction cost goes down, like you say, does that enable more people to give out more jobs and use services like that? So yes, in effect, more jobs could be created.
I think that's very apparent. And I mean, and I'm not just saying that as a, hallelujah statement. I think that for the last 10 to 20 to maybe 30 years, people have been warning about the machines taking over and, what will we do in the future? But I would argue that that sentiment is not supported by evidence at all. If you look at the last 10 to 15 years, the labor market is booming. I mean, there's a lot of work out there, and that will continue to be the case. Now, it will not be the same type of work. Machines will do some of it, but I think of it as let's call it an Iron Man model. Where we as humans, we are in control, but we have leverage from this machine suit that's outside of us, and
assisting us, sort of.
Assisting us, and amplifying our power and our creativity, the inner strength that we have to contribute with.
I really like that way of looking at it. Me as a person, I try to find the positive side, and I can see the benefits of a gig economy. Obviously, like you said, there are some downsides and some things we need to figure out, but I have a belief that we will figure it out. And with that, I really love that we might have this flexibility. I would love to be able to just decide. I have this app for fitness. I used to have a membership at a gym, right? They had many gyms, but I had that membership. Now I use a membership where they've combined several small studios. I can go for yoga, I can go for swimming, and I decide in the morning. And I like that. Me personally, we're all different. But this is, and I don't think everyone, or let me ask it as a question. Do you believe it will all be gig working or a huge part? Because as I see it, it's allowing for those who it fits for to do it, and the rest will keep on maybe.
I think that the general opportunity will likely be the same, but people will use it in different ways. So, I mean, because we're, as humans, we have different preferences. So your preference is to try many different gyms, and other people have preference to go to one gym, and that's fine. Now, one way to look at it is as a general purpose technology. You probably have a smartphone or an iPhone. Other people who have completely different preferences to you have the same thing. They're using it in a different way, but they have the same thing. Now, I think that's where we will end up with the future work as well. That in essence, the mechanics behind it will be the same. Everyone will be much more free to flexibly choose what and when they want to work with something. But of course, some people have preference to have a very fixed schedule. They will make that for themselves, and they can do that. Other people like to try out different things. They will do that.
I want to ask you, so we're talking about, and this is a very entrepreneurial approach to solving this problem of education and job market talent fits. If we maybe looking a little bit more at the conventional education, but doesn't have to be specifically related to that, what do you believe is the future of education? How will education look, let's say, 2050 or further?
I hope, I think, like, I don't regret, doing a Master of Science, but looking back, there's like a lot of courses was totally waste for me. Like, I love the math because it's helped me to solve problems, but then it was, there was not interested. I would love to see maybe more a little bit, I don't know, like, it was 15 years I left school, but I think like there's there's a lot like happening now. We have this become a developer within 3 months, and I think that they could be good. You know, you have 6 months, but I hope that you can, you know, pick and choose better to create your own like master.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't have to be all the blocks, but I think the universities are there, or but and also give like I was raised to become do my master's.
Oh, okay.
Like I never thought about anything else.
There was no other choice.
No, and but hopefully in the future there are more, you know, more different schools. I think, you know, they are popping up, and also that you don't go to school 5 years and then you work. And I think like, okay, go to school 2 years, work a little bit more, go to school 1 year, work a little bit more, or work half time, and also include it in your daily life.
I really like that. And what you're saying here is reminding me of a quote I heard.
Yeah.
Once again, I don't remember who said it, but it's specialization is for ants.
Yeah.
And we see that with the conventional education, like you explained it. You're going down one vertical, and you're studying for 5 years or whatever. You're going down that's one path, and you don't know at the end of that path how the word looks or what you will do with it. I like the approach of, I've heard it described of it as a comb, where you have your fundamental level of education, and then you have several verticals and some of them you go a little bit further down, but you still get a lot. And then there's of course knowledge transfer, and I think that's what STACC can help in educating about knowledge transfer and how you can use this different information in whatever you're doing.
And a STACC is like we will learn you everything you missed in that you don't get educated
while you
in,
went
at
in
the
that
university.
path.
But I think it will be fun to follow, you know, the future and how the education, because I think some parts are great. The network you're getting, some schools are great to keep that network. I think Stockholm School of Economics, Handels, their network is great, but in tech you don't have kind of the same networking, and also that position we would like to take with STACC.
Oh yeah.
So bringing, you know, a tech network, new type of network where you help your friends in your network.
I've had an idea that might fit in this. If you could take like this co-working, so right now we're at the park, a co-working space. If you could take that sort of approach to education and this alternative education, so you don't have like the physical school building, but you have spaces for co-working and co-learning. In that case.
And I think that also my vision is like, okay, we're gonna have batches of STACC people like every half a year, or like, you know, there's new people joining STACC, and in the end we are 400 people within STACC that you know, okay, now we set up like more, okay, we meet at this co-working space and have this type of education for the one that likes this type of subject, and you don't have to pay 25,000 to go to some learning center to get that knowledge. You can find better and cheaper way to get great education.
I love that idea.
I can just give you a short presentation or introduction to what I do when I'm not working at IVA. I am a business advisor to startups and entrepreneurs in Africa. So we're covering like 5 different African countries. It's 300 million people. So just one of the countries, Ethiopia, I'm a trusted advisor to this young girl called Bethlehem Desi. She has her own company within tech. And she decided a couple of years ago to teach 20,000 kids and youth in programming and AI, right?
Wow, that's a big mission.
It is a big mission that she has achieved. So 20,000 are taught AI and programming. 5,000 of them have, you know, achieved to become entrepreneurs based on that education. And that itself signals the future. because we used to think that knowledge comes from the West alone. But now, what we're trying to do this coming 2 months or so, we're inviting Bethlehem and some of her team members to Sweden and other places in the world, actually, to just basically ask them to teach us what they've known or for quite some time now in programming and AI. So when it comes to like, okay, how does the future look? It isn't as it has been before.
It doesn't have to be based off the past. That's what I'm getting.
Right.
So what she's done is she skipped a lot of the conventional layers that normally here maybe you would go through, and just what's most effective. I want to educate 20,000 people. How do I do it most efficiently?
And even more so, I think the next level of that is she started asking herself, or I assume she started asking herself that technology has no borders. So why should I? If technology and those who study programming and AI have no borders, because while you're on the computer, you speak to people without any type of idea of where they are based or what they look like. You are solving a problem, or you're creating a service or a product that locally is very necessary. So instead of us from the West telling them, okay, you guys need to have this type of product and service, if they are given the access to knowledge, then they can choose to become entrepreneurs and let us know what they need, right? So that's basically what's been going on for the past 3 years, and I'm super excited for the goal that we've set. Where within the next 5 years, 3 million people will be educated.
3 million.
Yes, and 5 different African countries are on the way. So that's just of what I see is coming in the future. But on the other hand, okay, what if we don't go global? What happens then? Because there's been a trend going in Sweden and other European countries that you don't have to go global all the time, because trade compliance could be complicated sometimes, especially when it's high technological products or services. So we can still work locally with what we're interested in. We can still use our competence locally. It doesn't have to be a global issue. We don't have to save the world. You can actually start by saving yourself.
I'm liking that future. And right now or in the future, no, the question is right now, do you believe people entering into the gig economy, the majority of the people are doing it because they're trying to get some lifestyle design a la Tim Ferriss, the 4-hour work week type of lifestyle? Or do you think it's trying to get opportunities?
I think that for the bulk, or not for a huge majority, but for a small majority, it's still economic opportunity. If you look at it on average. Now, this actually differs quite a lot between different verticals. In this cases where it's not only about getting economic opportunity, the reasons differ. It's not only to have a flexible lifestyle. It could be social reasons. And even when you're looking at the case where it's about economic opportunity, it's not the same type of economic opportunity. In some cases, it's I don't get a job, so I'll take this one. In another cases, I already have a job, but I would like to have some extra money. In some cases, it's I'm quitting my job because I'm quitting my job as a hairdresser because I want to open my own saloon. Okay, I need something to do in between. In other cases, it is Christmas is coming up. I need a bit of spare cash to buy presents, and so there's even within the economic opportunity category, there's a spectrum of and a variety of reasons. I would say that you cannot bulk everyone into the same.
So once again, it's allowing for flexibility.
Yes.
Really.
Yes. And now I think that to be fair, because now I've listed a lot of positive things about this, and a lot of the there are some challenges and negative things about this phenomenon as well. Many of them having to do with the immaturity of the ecosystem and the phenomenon itself. So when I said, you know, there are issues around wage and worker security and so on, I think even when those are addressed, this will partly be scary for some people, because more free, you know, more degrees of freedom in any system, you know, could be contributing to a sense of almost panic for a lot of people. Like, okay, I have all this opportunity, I need to do something with my life. You know, sometimes it's easier to just
with a fixed path.
Yeah, with a fixed path. And with this, the fixed path is no longer so fixed. So
I believe a potential solution to that is if education catches on, conventional education, and teaches us about this. So there's all this opportunity, and so we're getting ahead of that. We're learning about how to find our path and how to question and how. So we're learning these, I guess you could call it soft skills that will help us navigate.
I mean, almost like philosophy, I would say. I mean, maybe schools should focus less on cramming in facts that can be easily Googled, and not only teaching us the skills of searching and finding knowledge, but also how to approach opportunity, you know, from an almost like philosophical perspective for the individual.
I share that belief. Thank you very much, Alok. This has been great to get your approach, and I'm excited to see where AppJobs is going. I'll follow your journey, and thank you for sharing your perspective on this.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Learnability Podcast is produced by Levels, working in the fields of digital transformation, innovation, product development, and venture. If you want to know more about us, visit at wearelevels.com. And oh yeah, if you want to find additional material and contribute to the platform, you can do that at learnability.online. That's learnability.online. Looking forward to get in touch with you. And oh yeah, stay curious.